was being done that they were being made at every mint beginning in 1879.
That's right.
So there, basically, the government was being forced to buy tens of millions
They were
of
being forced. They legislated
ounces.
it.
Right. That's a mandate. That's if you ask me, they're holding a gun to their head, and they're basically making them buy tens of millions of ounces of silver to make specifically into dollar coins.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have, in very short order after that, in 1890, just 12 years later, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act. Okay. Um, Now, what I want to say is prior to 1890, the period before 1890, if you look, very, very few silver coins were being minted. And it, it wasn't really until the beginning of the Morgan dollar that silver coins were really started to be minted in earnest. If you look at mintage numbers of coins, of silver coins, they really, really started to go up in 1878 and forward.
Up into the 80s, yeah.
Yes. Now, the Sherman Silver Purchase Act required the U.S. government to buy an additional 4.5 million ounces a month. That's in addition to the $2 to $4 million it already bought.
I love it.
Now, it was originally thought that this would cause inflation, but and that would make all the silver dollars worth more. But the flood of silver actually caused the price of silver to drop,
Yeah.
and it made many mines unprofitable and forced them to close.
Not quite what they were looking for, but
Right. So by 1890, silver fell to $1.16 an ounce. And by year end, 69 cents an ounce.
they still had a monetary value. They were still a dollar.
Didn't that make them like the world's first clad coins?
The first,
Fiat currency.
yeah. Well,
So by 1893 and 1895, the mint closed Carson City and New Orleans. It's just
it didn't close New Orleans until 1909, I believe.
Well, yes, but yeah, by 1893 and 1895, the mint closed the Carson City Mint in 1893 and again in 1890. Well, it was closed. The Carson City Mint was closed twice. Is kind of my point.
Oh.
And that was sitting on top of the Comstock Lode. But here's the worst part of all of this.
Oh, yeah?
1918, the Pittman Act. Okay? The Pittman Act basically was a subsidy to mining interests, again, where silver was being bought at $1 an ounce when it was in effect about 69 cents an ounce. 270,232,722 silver dollars were melted, turned into bullion, and subsidiary coinage. They minted 11 million subsidiary coins from it. And during 1920 to 1933, the same amount of silver was bought and coined back into 270,232,722 silver dollars. So
recycling, baby.
Well, not really. I mean, they weren't recycling as much as they were just cycling.
Yeah.
They were just pushing this stuff out. So in 1884, 1.136 million Morgan dollars were struck at the Carson City Mint, and this became the GSA hoard. By 1964, 84.7% of the mintage was still in the treasury vaults.
Yep.
That's insane. That's like the dollar coins that they're being forced to make now, the presidential dollars and the Sacagawea. They're building facilities to store these things in because nobody wants them and nobody cares.
That's exactly right.
But that kind of goes counter to what you're saying about Morgan's being. See, my premise is that only when they were available at face value, nobody cared. Only profit has motivated people to seek these coins.
Interesting. Let's switch gears a little bit here. I have another couple points I want to bang into you. One point I had was that tone Morgans can bring a very massive premium. I just wrote that little blurb. But I mean, honestly, the biggest premiums I've seen for tone coins come on Morgan silver dollars. I once had a Morgan silver dollar that on a normal day was a $150 coin, but because of the toning, brought almost $4,000 at auction.
Now, let me kind of play devil's advocate on this, especially since we're going point counterpoint. The existence of the toning is there primarily
because they were stored in bags for a long
coins
time. I
that were
know.
circulated.
I know where they come from. Hey, we're talking about collecting dollars. We're not talking about minting dollars. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about Morgan dollars from a collector standpoint.
Right.
In my
But I guess my point on that is that I think that spectacularly toned coins bring premiums because they're spectacularly toned.
yes,
I think that the majority of those coins being Morgans are because the other coins circulated to the point where they didn't really become spectacularly toned.
that's probably true, but that still doesn't change the fact.
It does not change the fact that you are exactly right in the fact that most, not most, but a very large number of your really really attractive toning, because it takes decades
Yes, it's a very long
for it to
time.
happen, are there because these things sat in bags in the treasury vaults.
Let me see which one.
What else you got for
I got a couple more. Uh, for the more analytical minded collector, there is a very strong group of people that collect VAMs. Um, VAMs are basically varieties on Morgan silver dollars, anything from recut dates to double dies to even some really interesting die clashes. And there are some very, very rare coins. Last year, I bought a VAM that on a normal coin, without this particular VAM is worth maybe $100. And this particular VAM we sold for over 25,000. So there are definitely some really rare coins out there that you can pick because people don't take the time to educate themselves.
Okay. And I would also add that I think it's a shame that the people that did collect Morgan dollars prior to the distribution or dispersal of the treasury hoard
Mm-hmm.
got crushed when those coins were distributed.
Yes. Oh, yes.
There were so many coins that were thought to be rare that, I mean, first off, we'll never know how rare these coins are because the mintage numbers are meaningless
Yeah.
because they didn't track what they melted over the course of the Pittman Act.
Yeah.
Which was a huge number of dollars. So they had no idea how many of these coins survive, and to this day, they really still don't know how many of any given date mint mark, pair survive. It's, I think, very unfortunate to the people that were interested in the coins, that supported the coin, that effectively were doing the job of good collectors, got crushed
Yeah.
when bag upon bag upon bag of these things started showing up in treasury vaults.
That is very true. I've read stories and talked to people that were around then, and it was not a good time.
Not a good time to be a Morgan
Yep.
collector.
Let's see. The last point I had was um, the availability and affordability of proof examples. Um, so most years of the Morgan Silver Dollar have a proof mintage of anywhere from the high hundreds to the low thousands or a couple thousands. So if you find yourself fancying a proof Morgan Silver Dollar, you can find either a slightly impaired coin, like a details coin, or you can find yourself like a low end kind of proof 62, 63 example, and you won't go broke doing it. So that's the last point I wanted to cover.
Okay, and to kind of put a nice little bow on this, I will tell you that one of the things that I found interesting about Morgan's is the proofs and the fact that let's see, I'm looking for it in this in I'm looking at the book right now, Morgan Dollar: America's Love Affair with a Legendary Coin, to which I say, huh, by Michael Miles
Oh,
Standish.
you're a hater.
Well, I just on Morgan's, but he says that many branch mint proofs exist, and it is something that that is debated as to whether or not they are bona fide proofs,
Yeah.
but they kind of, it says still more collectors misunderstood the term pro of as a description of the coin's condition. Basically, in order to qualify as a proof Morgan dollar, it has to have squared rims, mirrored fields, superior details, but the most important thing is the coiner's intent, as Mr. Standish describes it. Was the coin struck for the purpose of being circulated in the economy?
Hmm.
If so, it's probably not a proof. Now, was the coin struck for the purpose of being a presentation piece? Yes, then it's likely a proof. However, you will note that there are certain coins in the Morgan Dollar series that really do kind of exhibit proof features, and the 1880S is probably one of the more famous ones because so many of them exist in really, really high-end deep mirror proof like.
Yes. Very, very much so.
And so, there are branchment proofs, probably the last coin that was made as a branchment proof, that I guess might give somebody, a little bit even more of a challenge if they want to to really, push themselves.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting point.
So I don't think either one of us came off as either hating nor loving them. Well, okay,
What?
maybe I.
You're
Okay,
totally a hater.
I'm a hater.
You're drinking your haterade.
Okay, I still don't
It's
like it.
okay. I hate modern stuff, so we're even.
And now, the coolest thing to walk into Matt's store.
Well, I did something specifically knowing what our topic was tonight.
If I go to what walked in Max's gallery, I will come across an absolutely spectacular
It
coin.
is pretty cool.
See, you call me hater, and you may have a point, but I don't completely hate them because
Well,
they're coins, and I love all coins
just not mortgage.
or
Okay.
ancient.
Well, the coolest thing that walked in, and this coin has actually been in process. We actually bought this coin raw, but it has since been certified. Was an 1893 Carson City Morgan silver dollar. Now that coin is relatively unusual in its own, but this particular coin was really nice, and ended up grading as an MS61 at NGC.
Now, my first impression of this coin is I looked at the devices on it, and I see that they're very frosty.
Yep.
And my question is did you think that this coin would grade proof like?
No, because the surfaces really aren't all that PL. Now the devices are very frosty. The coin exhibits a lot of bag marks, which is
Yes.
actually not unusual for this particular date, because this particular date, um, really there were only a very few bags found, but the coins that were in bags were very heavily bag marked. From just being moved around over the years. So it's most likely that this coin came out of an original mint bag at some point.
See, I think that this specific coin is another one of those good grading
Yeah.
lessons in that the coin seems to be sharply struck, but if you look,
Eh,
there's just bag marks every
yes.
place on it. There's bag marks all over her cheek. There are bag marks in the field in front of her face. There are bag marks behind them. There are bag marks in the field around the eagle. I mean, there are just bag marks all over this coin.
Yep. And that just is actually pretty typical for this particular date and mint mark combination. Just simply because they were stored. This particular coin definitely came out of a bag. I mean,
Now, when was the last year that they were made at Carson City?
1893.
So this is the last of the Carson City
That's
Morgans.
exactly right.
Yeah, it really is a very, very pretty coin. So you took this in raw. How long ago?
About 3.5 or 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
And we just got it back
You
from
got
the
a pretty
grading
quick
company. We
turnaround on
did.
it.
We paid for it though, so
Oh, okay.
because this is a pretty scarce coin, we wanted to get it back in the office.
And do you have somebody in mind for this coin already?
No, no, not really. It's just,
Have you got a big neon sign in the thing with an arrow pointing down to it, going "Buy me"?
maybe it's possible that we'll get there, but I don't think this coin's going to stick around very long. These coins of this caliber don't come up very often, so when they do, the customer usually finds us once we say we have it. So it's it's a cool coin. They trade a little less than like $5,000. I mean, it's not